Welcome to Mja Inc Investigations podcast, the series Deep into the Woods, Missing Persons, Unsolved Crimes, and the Doe'S, Episode 5, Part 1. My name is Mark Harper, and I am your host for tonight's podcast. I am the lead investigator and one of the founding partners of MJA. This episode is about unidentified females, more commonly known as Jane Doe's. Every year, there are numerous women found deceased whose identities are a complete mystery. They are simply known as Jane Doe until their real identities can be discovered. But unfortunately, sometimes this just never happens. Even though these people may have friends or family somewhere who are looking for them, no one ever comes forward to claim the body. Many victims are not identified for years or even decades after they were killed. Of the thousands of people murdered every year in the United States, some remain unidentified, including both unidentified murder victims and those who died of other causes. There are about 40,000 bodies that remain unidentified in the United States. Law enforcement, medical examiners, and coroners across the country have their hands full just trying to ID the Doe's. Regarding unidentified remains, may have no composite sketches or have they had clay bust created, which can seriously hurt a case. Many law enforcement agencies and townspeople give the Jane Doe a name. Our MJA staff gives about 500 hours a month trying to help ID John and Jane Doe's. Welcome back to our MJA podcast, Episode 5, Part 1, Jane Doe's. Our first case tonight is an unidentified white female who was found on December 26, 1982 in Indiana. The victim was located on December 26, 1982, west central Wayne County, Indiana. Jane Doe's estimated age, 18 to 22 years old. Estimated date of death, 8 months prior to her discovery. Condition of the body, skeletal remains. Jane Doe was found by deer hunters in a remote woods approximately 2 miles north of I-70 and approximately 15 miles west of the Indiana and Ohio state lines. Jane Doe had a gold medal ring with a oval opal white and 2 small diamonds on her right hand. If you have any information about this case, please contact the Indiana State Police. Case 2. Unidentified white female found December 29th, 1996, Indiana. The identified white female was located on December 29th, 1996 in South Bend, St. Joseph's County, Indiana. Jane Doe's estimated age, 20 to 35 years old. Date of death, 12 to 18 months prior to her discovery, making it around June to 1995 to December of 1995. Skeletal remains. The victim was located by hunters just 6/10 from US 31. A pasture is overgrown with thick brush. at a foot of a pylon. The terrain in this area is very rough and is only accessible by a four-wheel drive vehicles. This area is about 3 miles from South Bend, Indiana. The causes of death has not been determined, but likely it is homicide, aka authorities refer to Jane Doe as Madison. 12 missing females have been ruled out regarding this case to be in a match. Case 3. Unidentified white female found September 6, 1999, Indiana. Unidentified white female. Jane Doe's estimated age, 40 to 50 years old. The estimated time of death, 30 to 90 days prior to her discovery. Cause of death is undetermined, believed to be homicide. Located on September 6, 1999 in Angola, Indiana, located in Steuben County. Police discovered the nude remains of the unidentified female in a field northeast of Angola, Indiana, approximately 2.5 miles east of Interstate 69. It appeared that the remains had been there for at least 5 weeks prior of being discovered. A bra was wrapped around her neck, indicating the victim was possibly strangled. Jane Doe had jewelry, a Southwest sterling silver ring, size 4.5, with a turquoise stone, hoop earrings, a Lucky Star watch with a brown leather band were found with the victim. Anybody with any information regarding this case, please contact the Steuben County Sheriff's Department. Case 4. Unidentified white female found February 14, 1988, New York. Unidentified white female between the ages of 18 to 25 years of age was located on February 14, 1988 in Mount Vernon, Westchester County, New York. Cause of death was homicide. The victim died of being strangled and blunt force trauma to the head. Estimated date of death, 6 to 12 hours prior to her discovery. State of remains, recognizable face. She was lying in a city street in Mount Vernon, New York. There is no suspect in this crime and no clues as to this woman's identity. Our staff has tried researching this case, trying to find a possible match, but nothing has been found. Our staff has seen the actual photo of Jane Doe on the medical table, in her natural state when she was found. The photo also gave us what she really looked like when she was alive better than the sketch. Anybody with information regarding this case, please contact the Westchester County Medical Examiner's Office. That's the end of the Jane Doe cases we have in our case files, so we'll move on to some of the Jane Does we have listed on our website. And we'll start with case 5. Unidentified biracial or white female. Jane Doe was discovered on February 24, 1980 in Clark County, Washington. Jane Doe's estimated age, 13 to 16 years old. Race unknown. Victim had Native American and Hispanic traits. Estimated date of death, 1 to 2 years prior to her discovery. State of remains, partial skeletal. Cause of death, homicide. Jane Doe was located in February 1980 in a wooded area in Clark County, Washington. A father and son were mining for gold along Fly Creek just south of Healy Road when they stumbled across the partial remains. At the time, detectives combed the area and investigated all missing person cases but came up empty. In 2005, speculation arose that she may have been Jamie Grissom, who vanished in 1971. Some of Grissom's personal items were found near the area where the remains were found. DNA results indicate they were not the same person. Case 6. Unidentified black female. Jane Doe was discovered on October 14, 2003 in Spencer, Indiana, located in Owen County. Estimated date of death, 1.5 years to 3 years prior to her discovery. Jane Doe's estimated age, 25 to 45 years old. State of remains, skeletal. Cause of death, unknown. The victim's skeletal remains were discovered in a wooded ravine off of Franklin Road near Spencer in rural Owen County. The bones were found by a man who was preparing to build a home on the site. Spencer is about 40 miles southwest of Indianapolis. Additional personal items: a medallion with the words Caroline S. like Steve P. Love. It is unknown if Love is a separate word or the male's name. Is it Steve P. Love? On the back of the medallion, there's a 4-leaf clover with the words good luck. The medallion is about the size of a silver dollar. Anybody with information regarding this case, please contact the Indiana State Police. Case 7. Unidentified female, possibly Hispanic or biracial. The victim was discovered on May 24th in 1995 in Yamasee, Beaufort County, South Carolina. Jane Doe's estimated age was 30 to 35 years old. Curly, dark brown hair, colored red, brown eyes. She was a victim of a homicide, strangulation. Estimated time of death, 12 to 24 hours prior to her discovery. The victim was located in a ditch on Cotton Hall Road near Yamasee Line and was found by a state transportation department employee who was mowing grass along Cotton Hall Road off of Sheldon Road. It is believed that the unknown suspect murdered the victim in another location and successfully identified the victim may bring quick focus on a suspect. It is believed she was killed in a location that is about 12 hours driving time from Beaufort County. She laid on her back for at least the first 12 hours after her death. The body was found laying face down. There is no evidence of sexual assault. Anybody with any information regarding this case, please call the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. Case 8. Unidentified white female. Jane Doe's estimated age, 16 to 25 years old. She was discovered on October 2nd, 1969 in Oakland, California, located in Alameda County. Anybody with information regarding this case, please contact the Alameda County Coroner's Office. Case 9. unidentified white female. The victim was found on April 13th, 1992 in Sheridan County, Wyoming. Jane Doe's estimated age, 16 to 21 years old. The victim's remains was located in a ditch near milepost 5 on the west side of Interstate 90. It is believed the victim was murdered at another location and dumped at the discovery site. It is about 5 miles south of the Wyoming and Montana border. DNA evidence obtained from the victim matches evidence from the Doe Network case 213 UFWY, but they will not say what that match pertains to. Case 10, unidentified Hispanic or Native American female. Jane Doe was discovered on March 1st, 1992 in Sweetwater, Wyoming, and located in Sweetwater County. Jane Doe's estimated date of death was 1 to 5 months prior to her discovery. State of remains, recognizable face. Cause of death, homicide by stabbing. A truck driver passing at a Interstate 80 turnaround near as Bitter Creek spotted the victim's nude body laying face down in the snow at the bottom of the slope. Examiners also found signs of strangulation, beating trauma to the face and jaw, as well as anal and vaginal sexual assault. The suffocation of the killing points to the possible involvement of a serial killer. I should say the sophistication of the killing points to the possible involvement of a serial offender. Detectives are determined the killer's blood is type O. The victim, known as Bitter Creek Betty, is buried in Rest Haven Memorial Gardens. DNA evidence obtained from the victim matches DNA evidence from 390 UFWY from the Doe Network. Anybody with any information regarding this case, please contact the Sweetwater County Coroner's Office. Case 11, unidentified white female. The victim was located on August 2nd, 1999 in Fox Park, located in Albany County in the state of Wyoming. Jane Doe's estimated age, 28 to 58 years old. The victim's partial skeletal remains were located in Fox Park. It appears that the bones have been at that location for a long period of time. Jewelry, a silver band engraved with MSS and a silver-colored rope-style ring with 2 clear teardrop-shaped stones. Case 12, unidentified white female. Jane Doe was located on May 4th, 1984, about 6 miles outside of Westby in Vernon County, Wisconsin. Jane Doe's estimated age is 50 to 63 years old. There were 3 people driving along Old Line Road saw the victim's body laying at the roadside. Jane Doe's hands were severed at the wrist and were never recovered. Their killer made no attempt to hide her body. The compact vehicle was seen in the vicinity, the color yellow, and it had 2 doors. After seeing the news report of the murder, a couple stated they had seen a parked bright yellow compact with a man outside of it. The police found a piece of fractured denture, some blood, and a man's Seco watch. Based upon the tire tracks, investigators theorized that the suspect had pulled off of U.S. Highway 14 and made an attempt to dump the body when the couple interrupted him. As he drove away, his tires spun. The car then went south, then west on Old Line Road about 3 miles and dumped the body. Investigators believe the victim was not native to the area where she was found. Over 400 leads has been followed considering this case. Anybody with any information on this case, please call the Vernon County Coroner's Office. Case 13, unidentified white female. Jane Doe was located on July 21, 1999 in Racine County, Wisconsin. Jane Doe was found at around 6:15 a.m. at the edge of a cornfield in a rural area of Racine, Wisconsin at 92nd Street between 6 and 7 Mile roads on July 21, 1999. It appeared the murder had occurred elsewhere and that the body had been dumped. Jane Doe's estimated age, 34 to 41 years old. It appeared that she had undergone weeks of neglect, abuse, which increased the days before her death. She also appeared to have been sexually assaulted. Her remains were exhumed in October 2013 for an additional examination. Chemical isotopes analysis indicated the victim may have spent some time in Alaska, Montana, or several southern Canadian provinces. Anybody with information concerning this case, please contact the Racine County Sheriff's Department. We are going to take a pause for the cause, and when we come back, we have a guest on tonight's podcast, Dan. We will be back in a moment with Dan's interview. Welcome, Dan, to our MJA podcast, the series called Deep Into the Woods. This is episode 5, part 1, and we will be discussing Jane Doe's. How are you tonight, Dan?
Pretty good, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. I had a lot of good news yesterday that we'll talk about after this podcast. Okay, during your investigative work and research, did you ever encounter a Jane Doe you could not stop thinking about?
That's actually a great question. It's not a case involving one Jane Doe specifically. What I actually wanted to discuss was one of the cases that you gave me during my internship with MJA, involving the 4 women found in barrels in New Hampshire in 1986, I believe it was, 1984. The thing that was so odd about that case, the 2 women being found in barrels, and then 15 years later, 2 more women found in barrels near that same location, was very odd because all 4 of these victims were related. One of them was either the mother or the aunt of one of the 2 or 3-year-old victims in the barrel. And what was so odd about this case for me, from a profiling perspective, is I've seen a lot of murdered families in my time as a profiler, but never a case where a group or a family of 4 just went missing and was found like this without any identification. It was a very rare and strange case.
And do you know that they have a lot of resolution on that case? They have a suspect. They have identified, I believe, 2 of the victims. And did you ever read about that?
I read that they had a break in the case as connected to a California slang,
Yes.
but it honestly didn't say too much more than that.
Okay. Okay, so you've never had just one Jane Doe that you couldn't get rid of out of your mind. And say my next question was, which it happens to me all the time. Uh, I was going to ask, have you ever had dreams about these Jane Does?
You do all the time, especially as a profiler, because your job as a profiler, first and foremost, is to put yourself in the mindset of the victim and the offender. If you've ever seen the movie Red Dragon with Anthony Hopkins and Edward Norton, there's a point at the beginning, right before he shoots him in the liver with the arrow, where he calls him an eye ticker, which means he's able to assume the emotional viewpoints of others, even if they scare or sicken him. So as a profiler, what you're always trying to do is put yourself in the mindset of both the victim and the offender. This is what they were feeling during the crime or before. And I repeat that process over and over and over again. And when I'm thinking about a case, sometimes to the point where I have to stop doing investigative work for a couple of days because I'll get so wound up in the thought process, I get lost and I forget to do basic things like eating and sleeping. I'm sure you know how that goes.
Oh,
where
yes.
you become obsessed with a case and everything else just kind of falls away, so much so to where you have to get away from it to clear your head.
Okay. And did the number of the does that's on record shock you?
No, the only thing that would shock me is that it's not more. Because as most people know, that's only the reported number of missing people. The dark figure of crime, which I discuss all the time, which the dark figure of crime is the crimes of all natures that aren't reported to the police. So the only thing that could surprise me is that the numbers aren't bigger. But what surprises me most about the large number of missing persons in this country is the fact that so many people can go missing even in today's modern times. Obviously, through social media and computers, with all the GPS and satellites, you would think it would be impossible to go missing in today's modern age. Yet we still have missing children and people that just go missing at an alarming rate that are never heard from again.
And why do you think that the United States has trouble identifying the John and Jane Does?
It could be a great number of reasons. Number one is when you start a missing persons case, okay, the prevailing thinking for a lot of people is that the missing person will eventually return. Well, the thing is, when you're taking that approach to a missing persons investigation through the first 12 or 36 hours, during that time that you think they're going to return, they could be being killed or kidnapped, which takes them, away. The other problem is that when, one offender kidnaps a victim and takes them far away from their home state or location, it could take a while for police officers in another jurisdiction to identify the body, if they ever do. Because even through the use of media, when you air a missing persons case, you have to make sure the right people see it. So that's two of the biggest factors. Another factor is that there are always three ways to identify people that law enforcement use quite regularly. That is dental record, DNA, and fingerprints. Well, for dental records, like I was discussing with the case in 1986, that only works if they have recent dental records. If they're transient, as they believed was the case in 1986, the dental record won't be kept as current, and you won't have nothing to compare the x-rays to when you find the body. And as you know, the big problem with using DNA and fingerprints to identify anybody is most of the time they're only identified if they're already registered in the criminal database.
And do you know that many of the Jane Doe's results because of domestic violence?
I would assume that would be the large majority of the cases, being that most crime, as far as murder goes, occurs between somebody that's usually known to you. So you're more likely to be killed by somebody that knows you, which would fit into that domestic violence behavior model.
And do you know that some of these females may never have been reported missing?
Yes, that was like I was discussing earlier with the dark figure of crime. You never know how accurate these numbers are, because in order for a person to be registered as a missing person, they first have to be reported missing. And there could be all kinds of reasons they don't want to be reported missing. They're running from a spouse that abuses them, or they're running from a criminal activity that they've done, or any number of reasons. And that's one of the biggest reasons that it's hard for law enforcement to get a jump start on missing persons cases. Because when it's not a child and it's an adult, the police's prevailing theory is that everybody has the right to run away if they want to. So for an adult, you could disappear, no questions asked, and that's your right. And that's what brings in a complication for law enforcement, is a lot of people go missing of their own accord for various reasons and don't want to be found. And then you have the people that aren't reported either because they're transient or there's no one to report them. And nowadays you have a problem, especially with illegal immigration, because these people come over here with no paperwork or family, so there's no one to start a missing persons case or no record of them even being in the country, which complicates investigative matters, especially in cases involving murder, human trafficking, things like that, because without any records, where do you start an investigation?
And do you think we need a better DNA databank systems that should be allowed to talk to other DNA databank systems?
Yes, we do. But the thing is, they're having a hard time with the DNA laws. They change all the time about when and when it's okay to collect DNA. But pretty soon I think the laws are going to start changing where you're going to see more and more people adhere to the law having to submit their DNA to a DNA databank. It's changed in recent years where people pulled over on traffic stops get DNA swabs, and it's even compared to people and their families. That was how they caught the grim sleeper Lonnie David Franklin. His son was pulled over during a routine traffic stop during a cheek swab, and when they took that cheek swab, even though the son wasn't guilty, they backran that DNA and came up with a paternity match to Franklin, identifying him as the grim sleeper. After 15 to 20 years inactive, he worked as a police mechanic. So the laws regarding how DNA is collected and who submits DNA are going to change. I think you're going to see a change in the way DNA gets collected from kids especially. There's going to be a bigger push, just like there is with their fingerprints. When I was in school in the DARE program, they were just starting the DARE program where they give the kids the ID cards. I don't know if you know about this.
Yeah,
where they put their little fingerprint on them.
Yeah.
They put their little fingerprint on the card with their picture. I think in the future it's probably going to lead to some type of DNA sampling, where they have more and more DNA on file. Obviously now you have DNA being collected through private sources. Ancestry.com now has a big DNA data bank, which I'm sure law enforcement will want to utilize in the coming years. containing DNA from people trying to find their family heritage and things like that. But only time will tell with the way the technology increases and the way we respond to that increase in technology.
Well, and see, what I have a problem with is uh, we have 40,000 registered bodies that's unidentified, and um, the protocols, as far as the DNA data bank, it has a lot to do with privacy issues. So that's why they don't let the computers talk between each other because of the privacy issues. And also on these 40,000 bodies, not every one of them has had a composite sketch or a clay bust done. And to me, that hampers the investigation also, because you don't have an idea of what they might even look like. And so I am hoping that they change that in the near future, because it would only help, to me, it would only help a case, because sometimes I have found that some sketches, and then they identify the victim, some of the sketches are right on the money. Same way with the clay bust they do, because they use certain measurements and things, and that helps tremendously. And so my question to you is, do you think each state should have a squad just for John and Jane Doe's?
Of course they should. If they have the money in the budget, all squads should have a missing persons Jane Doe cold case unit. The problem with that is, as you probably know very well, it takes a lot of money for a police department to fire up a cold case unit. And a lot of times, because of what you see on TV, you imagine a cold case with a squad of sometimes 4 to 6 people, a whole team. But a lot of times when, your local police departments will start these cold case units, they do it with 2, sometimes even 1 detective. And you know how hectic that could be with the number of Jane Doe's they have for just one county. So it could be one person working like 40 different investigations that they have throughout time. But one advantage I noticed that we have today that we didn't have years back is that not only do we have composite sketches and clay molds, we have the identikit, which is where they give you a book filled with different facial features. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yes.
And you pick the various facial features of the person through the series of samples they have. And that's also become a great tool for matching faces because of the variety of different eyes and hair colors and different things like that they have. And that makes it sometimes a lot easier for a person with not the greatest, ability to describe the witness that they've seen during a violent crime. And that's important because, from your years working violent crime, that once people experience trauma, it can be hard for them to remember the little details because of what they've been through. It just blocks out that specific part of memory. But sometimes getting to see the specific features through the use of the identikit can help spark their memories.
Okay. Thanks, Dan, for being on tonight's podcast, and you have a very good evening. And
Well, Mark, I would like to thank you for having me once again.
Oh, yes, we have more to come for you. And that's the end of tonight's podcast, Deep Into the Woods, Episode 5, Part 1 on Jane Doe's. And always remember, if you are bored and need something to do, well, take a walk deep into the woods. You might be surprised what you might find. Thank you for listening, and good night from Plattsburgh, New York.